generosity is the topic of the month, and the first thing that comes to mind is the story of the loaves and fishes, because I had this epiphany a few years ago when I read about the idea that the miracle of the loaves and fishes wasn't so much that Jesus made loaves and fishes multiply, but that it was the miracle of the generosity of getting everybody to share what they had. You know, there were no McDonald's or supermarkets, so everyone took their food with them, and they would have had it tucked into their robes, and yeah, well, I've got a dried fish, and yeah, I've got some olives and some bread. And for a few years I thought that was pretty cool, because I've always liked Mark Link's idea that you can explain, you know, you can explain the things that happened to the plagues of the Egyptians that Moses brought. You can explain all those things, and so I thought, wow, you can actually explain the miracle of the loaves and fishes. But even yesterday our priest was saying, well, that's a nice idea, but is that really what happened? And I think possibly it wasn't, because I think it had to be a miracle. I think people wouldn't have written the story about, and then Jesus got everyone to share their food. So I think it had to have been better than that. I think it was probably more miraculous than just, what a great guy, he made everyone share their food. But the idea was still that there was generosity involved, that he was looking at people who had been following him all day, and he recognised their need, and he found a way to meet their need. And that's, I guess, what the real miracle is, that people should be looking for what the real need is and dealing with it. And we all know about the generosity of people that give to the poor, you know, alms giving. It's a word that always my students can never understand because no one uses it very often, but it's there in our Lenten theme of Catholic social principles, of ethics and everything else, is alms giving. So sure, we give alms, and that's generous, but there are other kinds of generosity that I think we should pay a little more attention to, and one of them would be a generosity of spirit. The people who are forgiving. I mean, how generous is it to forgive someone for something, some wrongdoing? What incredible generosity that is. And the people who don't get angry when, in this current climate, the first thing people seem to do is get angry and justify that anger. And when one person's angry, other people feed off it. And I've noticed that a lot in family dynamics. You know, we had always, when we started raising children, thought, well, if we've got to get angry at them, we'll play good cop, bad cop, you know. But it often turns into bad cop, bad cop. And if one of us is angry, the other one gets angry. And even my children, now that they're teenagers, can recognise that progression, that if my husband gets angry at my daughter, she will then get angry at one of the younger ones, and we can see it happening, and we're trying to say, well, let's not get angry. And so there's a great generosity of someone to say, I'm not going to get angry, and I'm going to find a way to deal with something that doesn't involve anger. And I think that's an incredible gift to be able to give, is to be able to say, let's deal with that, and let's solve that, and if something's gone wrong, let's look at restorative justice and help you to put it right, but let's not get angry. Driving around these days, you see, as soon as you do something wrong, people give you the fingers, toot their horns. I tried to toot at someone the other day because they just pulled to a stop in the middle of the intersection. No one around, they just slowed to a stop. And as I drove around them, I kind of gave him a toot to say, what are you doing? And he flung the bird, you know, gave me a nasty finger. And I used to do that myself years ago, until one day I did it, and it was a little old lady. And I thought, oh, that was awful. What an awful thing to do. And I stopped doing it after that, except for moments of probably very extreme stress and terrible driving. But it's having that ability to give something positive back even a negative situation, that I think is a phenomenally generous act. And I think if more people could go to do that, then our world would be more of the kind, thoughtful, loving kind of place that I think Jesus was trying to set up when he said, these people around me are hungry, how can we feed them? And that, I think, would be, a generous world, and that's what we want. Thanks.